Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series 86 number 22 Brawn. So this is Brawn as we saw him oh so briefly in that 1986 movie before he was unceremoniously executed on the Ark and replaced with a whole new slew of toys. So let's go ahead and bring that box in first and see what we've got. So you've got Transformers the movie, you've got that artwork right there, 8622 Brawn. Over here you've got that artwork again. On the back you've got some product shots. It's big screen inspired. It's the Decepticon shuttle ambush. And down here, in an effort to protect the crew, Brawn is the first to act when Decepticons attack the Autobot shuttle. And you've got a backdrop included. Down here you've got all your warnings, and you do have the sad baby. The baby is sad because, well, he knows what's going to happen to Brawn. Over here you have a close-up of his face. He's a deluxe class. Up top, Transformers the movie. Down low, you have all that information if you care to read it. So that's it for the box. It's time to get that thing the heck out of here and concentrate on what matters most, everything that came inside that box. Behold, laid here before you is everything that came inside that box with Brawn, and we'll start right over here. You've got a little sheet of warnings, and then you have your instruction booklet, and then you're left with the two items left here. So we're just going to start down here with this pistol. Not a lot to talk about here. This is pretty basic. It's just black molded plastic with a little bit of sculpt work in there, so nothing overly impressive. You do have blast effect compatibility right there on the tip though, so at least you got that going for you. And then the last thing that comes with it is your display base. So this comes with all the Studio Series figures. And you can see that backdrop there is the Ark after the Decepticons have jumped in. So if you have room, this is something really nice to put your figures on. Otherwise, put it in the box and put it away like I do. So there you go. Let's go ahead and get all this stuff out of the way and get to the main event and bring Brawn in for his details. Here he is, the bot we've all been waiting to see. This is that Studio Series 86 Brawn. So let's go ahead and bring him in and take a look at this guy. Starting up here at the head, and that's definitely a brawny head if I've ever seen a brawny head. And you can see he's got some silver on that face, nice gray for the helmet, those piercing blue eyes, everything looks good there. A little bit of detail back here behind his head, which looks good. And then coming down to that brawny chest. There it is, and it's definitely got some G1 inspiration and some cartoon inspiration. He's not entirely cartoon accurate, but I think he looks pretty good. Coming on down to those legs, and you can see what he's got going on there. This is kind of a permanent gap on the legs, so he is completely closed up back here. It's just a bit of a gap on the front, so not the most attractive thing in the world, but it's not awful. Just something worth noting. Not a lot of hollow areas on this guy. He does have this hollow area right here, but it's not bad. And coming down to those feet. The feet are tiny, but they do a good job of keeping him balanced, so no real complaints there. Lift this arm up. Oh, before I lift the arm up, let's go ahead and take a look at that side view so you can see what he's packing in that backpack. So it's not awful. It is a little bit of a backpack though, but he folds up decently enough. And then before we get too far, you can see that you can see through him a little bit right there. But again, not really. I mean, you change his angle by a few degrees and he's all good again. So coming back down here to those feet, you can see what he's got going on there. Coming up the side. And then looking at those arms, the arms look alright. They're not, again, this guy doesn't really overwhelm in anything, but he's also more than adequate in most places. I guess is the best way to put him. But there's that upper arm, there's the lower arm. Now these are painted, and you can see just from the act of transformation a few times that there is some chipping. It's just going to be unavoidable, really, the way that he comes together. Same thing when you look down here at these tabs. You can see that you're getting some wear there just from the act of transformation. So it's a little disappointing. Again, same thing up here as well. You've just got just the slightest bit of rub going on in certain places where that paint is at. So not a major complaint, but it is kind of bothersome. There he is from the back, and yeah, it looks like a whole lot of truck back here, but you're not really going to pose him from the back, so I'm not sweating it too much, especially for the price point. I think he does a pretty good job. So yeah, I think overall looks, yeah, I give him pretty high marks on it. He is not the most amazing bot I've ever seen, but I do believe he is more than adequate, and he does certainly capture that Brawn style. So let's go ahead and talk about articulation, and we're going to start with my single biggest gripe. Just happens to be coincidentally where we normally start anyway, and that is the head. Yeah, he's not going to look up, he's not going to look down, he's not going to tilt his head whatsoever. You can rotate the head 360 degrees. The easiest way is to just pull this down, and then you can give that a crank and go 360 whichever direction you want. But that's it. No up, no down, no tilt. So that's kind of a bummer. Moving over here to the shoulders, you can come up that far. You can go all the way around on that ball joint, as you can see. And then at the arms, you do get a pretty decent elbow bend and then bicep rotation right up there at the top. And coming down here to the waist, you do get waist rotation. You can go all the way around with the waist. Just, keep in mind you're going to run into stuff. But other than that, you've got plenty. Hips, he is more than adequate in the hips. He is, dare I say, a Brawn Van Damme in the hips. So it's nice to see he's got good articulation somewhere. Moving to the front kick that far. Back kick, he can get pretty far as well. Again, just keep in mind the geometry, so you got to swing things out of the way. But if you just come straight back, you're only going to get that much. So backpack kind of hinders you as far as that goes. Thigh rotation all the way around. Knee bend is just under 90 degrees on those knees. And then coming down to the feet, start with the ankle tilt here because it's significant. Yeah, that's a lot of ankle tilt. You're gonna be able to take advantage of those splits for sure if you want to. And then he does have individual heel and toe articulation, so the heels, obviously they're up as high as they go down that far. Toes are normally locked in about that high, and then you come down that far if you want to use it. But I have found that with a little bit of pressure, you can push those toes up as well. It doesn't hurt anything, so that's really up to you. So overall articulation, I think, is good. He really suffers in that head. That's my single biggest complaint as far as articulation goes. Everything else, he does a fine job at it, especially at this price point. Now let's go ahead and talk about that one singular accessory that he comes with, which is his pistol, and I don't think there's going to be any surprises here. You plug it into his hand, swing his arm up, and make him tilt his head, or turn his head, and then there you go. Bam, bam, bam. He's shooting something. Oh my gosh. Who saw that coming? And then you have blast effect compatibility, so you can put a blast effect on there, and now it's like a blast effect, bam, bam, bam. Yeah, I know. It's really exciting. So you do have weapon storage. Oh, before we cover that, I mean, you do have the ability, even though I know that's not the way he went down on the arc, in this case, Starscream's going to shoot him in the back. And you can do that. And then, if you want to go for the rare flying Brawn, you can do that as well while he's being shot in the back. Something like that if you want to do that. So, yeah, there's your fun with blast effects. And, yeah, weapon storage. You do have the ability to store the weapon on the back if you choose to do so. It's not awful. And there you go. So you can just plug it in the back, angle it whichever way you want. I don't care. Take the tire completely off and then just put the gun on. If you want to do that, you can totally do that as well. So, yeah, that's your call. Whatever you want to do, but you do have weapon storage, so don't let anybody tell you that you don't. So that covers details, articulation, and the use of the accessory. So let's go ahead and jump into that transformation and get him into his truck mode. Now the first thing that we're going to do for the transformation, or the first thing that I do at least, is I'm going to turn his head around 180 degrees. And so I'm going to just take this assembly right here, it pops down right on that hinge. So bring that down. I'm going to turn that head 180 degrees, so that way it's going to be hidden in his truck mode. While I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and tilt these arms down. So if you look right in here, you've got these yellow areas right here of the arms that connect to this green area in there, and you'll see what I'm talking about when I bring that down. So I'm just going to swing that down like that, and you'll notice right in there you have the slightest of a peg that mates up to this little port right over there. So I'm just going to move these arms out of the way. That's going to give me the clearance that I need now to swing that hood around 180 degrees, just like that. And, hey, there's the front of a truck. All right, so now I'm going to collapse this back up. And now Brawn's just looking at himself way up in there. All right, now take this piece right here, and you're just going to lift this up out of your way so it's clear like that. While I'm right here, I'm going to turn that waist 180 degrees. And then I'm going to work on these legs down here. So I'm just going to take those heels and toes, and I'm going to squeeze those heels and toes together just like that. Open those legs up a little bit, and then I'm going to give this a pry. and that's going to swing these legs out. So they're going long ways on you like that. So same thing over here. Just like that. All right. Now I've got those all splayed out. Now I'm going to fold these arms in. So as part of doing that, you can take these hands. You could do these at the beginning as well. It's really up to you. It doesn't really matter when you do it, as long as you do it at some point. Take those hands, fold them in. Make sure that the arms are swung down like that. And then I'm going to swing these arms in just like this. And as I do so, I'm going to tuck all that away. And you can see what we've accomplished there. Now right here at this bicep rotation, I'm going to turn that 90 degrees. So my hands are pointed down and I've got a tab that's visible right there. It's going to correspond to that slot. So over here, I'm going to lift the arm up right there. I'm going to swing this in. Clear that and get that down out of the way. Rotate 90 degrees so that fist is pointing down, and then you've got your tab, you've got your slot. And just like you would expect, they're going to go together. Now this is kind of tight. I don't know if it's due to paint on mine, which you can see some of the paint is has been scraped away. But you get those lined up, get those pushed in, and yeah, get it approximately right there, and all is well. Now here's where it's kind of interesting, at least for me. So you have these little tabs right here on those legs. They are obviously meant to go to these slots that are on his fingers. Mine don't fit in very well, so I don't sweat it if these don't fit in. It does not affect the final form or fit of the Brawn in his truck mode. So I'm just going to get the legs right here, and then on this hinge right here, I'm going to swing this entire assembly over and plug it in right in these two areas. All right, so let's just go ahead and do that and flip that. Now you have these heels and toes. They're going to tuck in right in this area right here. So as you bring that forward, make sure those tuck in. And then you have a slot right there that's going to correspond to that tab, which you can see some of the paint has been eaten away. And then you got this little tiny tab here that's going to plug in up here. So line all that up and give that a push. And then you've got that side done, and we'll do the same thing over here. So give this a pull, tuck the heel and the toe away, make sure that your tab and your slot line up right there, give that a push, give that a shove in there. Now I'm going to turn around to here, and if these worked right, this is where you could plug those into the fingers and have something like that, I guess. And then you're going to bring this down. It's sitting on that double hinge right there, so you're just going to bring this down, and you'll notice you've got slots right here and right here that correspond to tabs on the upper part of that cab. And then bring that down, plug those in, and then once you're here, now on my copy in particular, this doesn't want to stay. I don't know if it's tolerance, stack up issue, whatever it is. But once we get to this next step here, everything's going to be okay. So you're going to take this piece right here, and it's going to plug in to those areas right there on your yellow. So I'm just going to bring this down and give that a push. And now that keeps everything nice and tight. Pop this loose up here, so just get that popped back in. Give everything one last squeeze. And there you have Brawn in his truck mode. So yeah, once you get him here, he's not really a bad looking truck. I think he turned out looking pretty good. Definitely has a lot of homage to the G1 toy and to that G1 cartoon as well. So it's an interesting blend what they put together here. But I figured, hey, let's throw him on the turntable, give a 360 or two so you can get a nice unobstructed view of Brawn before we bring him in for his close-up. But I think that overall, I like this alt mode. I think there's a decent amount of paint on there. I think it's kind of interesting that they painted all the windows except for the back one. So you'll see that as he swings back around. The back one is just molded plastic. There's no paint on it. Afterthought? I don't know. And maybe if we would have had that jerry can painted right there, I think that would have really set it off. But no major complaints about anything else except for those mushroom pegs, which I always have a problem with. But it is what it is. So now that we've gotten a couple 360s, let's get that turntable out of the way. We'll bring him in and look at his details in close-up. Let's go ahead and bring him in and get a nice look at those details, and we'll start right up here at the front. And you can see all that turned out pretty well. I mean, they did just say, all right, everything appears silver. So, but he's a deluxe class figure with a deluxe class price point. No complaints here. I'm just happy we got some silver. And you've got that yellow bumper right there. You can see maybe if you really use your imagination, there could have sort of maybe could be a winch there. Would have been nice to have a little bit of paint on these outer headlights right there, but at least they're molded in. And little touches of silver right there on those fenders. Looking up at that hood, you've got that Autobot symbol. And then you have those blue windows, windshield wipers in there. Also a nice touch. Coming around to the side, I think he comes together looking pretty nice. I like what they've done here. This looks kind of like a step up into the truck. So, yeah, it does not detract from him at all. The tires and wheels look good except for those mushroom pegs. You do have turn signal indicators right there. And then back here as well. Coming around to the back, you even get a rear windshield wiper. Just no paint. So sculpt work is pretty good. And then this side is the same as the other, so nothing really exciting there. And then here he is from the top. And here he is from the bottom. So he compacts up, hides away pretty good. Now you could leave this head turned around if you wanted to see his face. That's up to you, but tucking him away like that, I think adds to the realism of the vehicle. So yeah, I mean, he rolls pretty good, so no complaints about that. Really no other articulation to talk about here. You do have the ability, if you wanted, from a blast effect standpoint, to do that. So he's taking a heck of a hit, but there's really no other blast effect ports in the vehicle mode. Now, as far as weapon storage goes, it's just like in robot mode. You just plug it in up there, and then you have your traditional Autobot with a gun on their roof kind of setup. And you do have enough room here. You know, you can still use those blast effects and have that blast effect compatibility. As he's going down the road, you can do that and have yourself a good time. As noted earlier as well, you can just take all that off, and if you don't want a spare tire on the roof, you could just do that. Or if you just want the gun in there, you can do that as well. So a couple of different options there, so have yourself a good time playing. I'm just going to leave the tire on there. It's twofold. Number one, I think it looks okay, and number two, I don't lose it. So there you go. All right, now that we've got all that information out of the way, let's go ahead and bring in some comparisons and see how he looks. For our first alt-mode comparison, here we see that Studio Series 86 Brawn next to his G1 self. So this is that little mini-bot G1 Brawn. And you can see, yep, heavily borrowed from that original design, color scheme, overall shape, all that good stuff. So looks pretty good. Moving on to our next comparison, this is that Studio Series Brawn as we saw him ever so briefly in that 2018 Bumblebee movie. And for that final alt-mode comparison, here we see Brawn hanging out with the rest of the crew on that ill-fated shuttle attack mission from that 1986 movie. So over here you have the Earthrise Prowl, Brawn of course, Studio Series 86 Ironhide, and then Core Class Studio Series Ratchet. So to transform Brawn back, the first thing that we're going to do is disconnect this tailgate right back here. So you're just going to reach up under here, give that a pull, and that's going to allow you to bring this cab up. So just give that a pull as well, and then pop it open so it's sitting like that, nice and clear, out of your way. And then if they haven't already disconnected, be sure to disconnect those fists out of those tabs right there. All right, once you've done that, now we're going to come up here to the front and we're going to disconnect this front part of the legs. Just give that a pull and then pull that on out, and then there you see those feet. And then we're just going to finish this leg all in one shot here. So you're going to, at this hinge, you're going to bend that all the way down, and you'll notice that it captures that little notch right there, which then allows you to collapse that leg up on that and shove that in. And then you're going to extend out that heel and extend out that toe, and you have one leg done. So do the same thing over here. Give this a pull. Bring all that out. Bring this down. Fold this in. Capture that notch. Bring that foot down here. Heel, toe. 2 legs done. Okay? So now we're going to take these arms, which are tucked away up under here. You're going to have to give them a pull to separate them because there is a tab and a slot system right there. So give that a pull. There you go. And then right here at this hinge, you're going to swing those arms down and just get them about right there. So you've got them sitting about like that. All right. Now what we're going to do is take care of the head and this upper grill piece. So just take this chest right here, bring the chest down, rotate the head 180 degrees, and then take this entire grill assembly right here at this point and rotate that 180 degrees and bring that in, and then you can bring that chest back up. And now what we're going to do with those arms, before we get them all the way pushed in, at this pin right here, I'm going to begin the rotation and kind of sort of align that small peg to that small port and bring that forward, line it up a little bit, give that a push. Even if you miss, you can still pull it off of there and move it, but I just bring it, try to line it up as much as I can. And then I'm going to bring my arm down, I'm going to swing that bicep out, and I'm going to swing that fist out. So same thing over here, so I'm going to rotate this piece up, and then I'm going to collapse it, try to line that peg and port up, bring my arm down, swing my bicep out, pull that hand out, and then you need to take these legs, rotate them 180 at the waist so they're facing forward properly, and then we'll compact up this backpack. So take that tailgate piece right there and flip that around, close it up like that, and then on this double hinge just collapse that backpack up as good as it'll go, which is about right there. And there you have Brawn transformed back into his bot mode. For that first bot mode comparison, here we see that Studio Series Brawn next to his G1 counterpart. So you can see just all the design cues that were brought over from that original G1 figure into this new Studio Series figure. Moving along to our next comparison, this is also a Studio Series Brawn. This is Brawn as we saw him in those opening moments of that 2018 Bumblebee movie. And for that final bot mode comparison, here you see Brawn with his crewmates on that ill-fated shuttle flight as the Decepticons ripped the side out and decided to execute all four of them. So left to right here, we have Prowl from Earthrise, we have Studio Series Brawn, Studio Series 86 Ironhide, and the Studio Series Core Class Ratchet. And just my quick editorial, this is maybe one of the coolest and most traumatic ways for a toy company to phase out an old toy line and bring a new one in, to just have them executed in a movie. Wow. Still leaves me with some trauma. And that's going to do it for the bot mode comparison, so let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. So let's talk a little bit about the Studio Series 86 Brawn. Keep in mind that this is a deluxe class figure, so all of my feelings, my opinions on this are going to be coming from that realm of that price point, that size of figure, so on and so forth. That being said, I think that overall this is a really cool little figure for the price. But let's go ahead and jump into it, and we're going to start with the overall looks of the figure, just that aesthetic that he brings. I think overall he looks good in both of his modes. It's better than I expected, if I'm being honest, for this price point. I think that they Hasbro Takara did a pretty decent job here with the engineering and the design to make a really good looking alt mode with a really good looking bot mode. He doesn't really have any hollow areas to speak of. He's got a decent amount of paint. I think the face sculpt is on point. The biggest complaint that I would have is he's got a little bit more of a backpack than I feel like he should. I don't know if there would have been a better way to compact that up, but I would have liked to have seen them do something because it is kind of bulky. But everything else looks really good on this guy. You know, the paint I think is really well done as far as the paint applications. I do have a little bit of chipping. We'll talk about that in the quality, but the overall paint I think is really well done. I do have a point of curiosity though. I understand painting the windows, but why not the one on the back? You know, that's kind of distracting when you have him in the alt mode. And hey, throw a splash of paint on that jerry can while you're at it too. I think that really would have set him off. But I think overall he's really good here, so I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. So moving on to the articulation, you know, he's really good everywhere except for that head. That really annoys me. So when you've got a pose like this, I would love for him to be able to be shooting up in the sky, you know, taking out some seekers or something. But he's just going to look straight ahead. You know, if he maybe rolls his eyes up a little bit, he could look up, but that's really all in your imagination. That head is just fixed on that plane. You can rotate it 360 degrees, that's it. So that's really a detraction to me. The knees are okay. They don't quite get to 90 degrees, so you will find that there will be a little bit of limitation there when you're trying to do some dynamic posing with him. But everything else is done really well as far as articulation goes. So if you can work around that head and work around that knees, work around those knees, that'll benefit you. But I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 here. Just really, really disappointed in that head. Next up is the accessories, or the accessory. Yeah, there's nothing to get excited about here. It's a black molded plastic pistol, and weapon storage is what exactly you would expect it to be. It's on his backpack, or it's on the top of the vehicle mode. At least it's got blast effects. This is the first time we've seen this design, so I'm not going to beat him up too bad for it. But yeah, I feel like they could have done a better job there. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 for the accessory. Now, moving on to overall quality. I think he's pretty good here. I do have some issues with paint chipping. So, you know, it's just part of the deal, part of this design, I suppose, where they painted some tabs. They painted some areas where they're going to rub each other. So just in the, you know, half dozen times or dozen times that I've transformed this figure, you know, he's already got some paint chipping and some paint rubbing that's where that's being removed, and that's kind of annoying. But I don't know if I'd call that a quality issue as much as a design issue. The only other thing to really complain about on my copy is on the hips. The forward and the back kick, they're a little looser than I would have liked to have been. They're not incredibly loose per se, but they're looser than I would have liked. So overall quality, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. I just feel like they could have done a better job with some clearance for that paint and some tighter hips. So bringing us to our last bullet, which is overall value. This was a pre-order figure that I picked up from BigBadToyStore.com for the MSRP of $25 US. I think for deluxe class these days, yeah, I'd always want them to be less expensive, but the MSRP is what the MSRP is. So I think the value is here for this figure. I don't think I would give more than that. I certainly wouldn't pay a premium for this figure. Anything above $25, I think you're paying too much. But as it stands right now, I think the value is there. So I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 for overall value. So that brings us to our grand total out of a possible 50 points. This Studio Series 86 Brawn gets 40 out of 50, which puts him at 80%. I am going to recommend this figure. I think other than just a few issues, my biggest one being the fact that you can't make him look up. I think other than that, he's a really cool figure. He's really fun. It really brings back a lot of memories to see this guy looking like this. So it's just really nice to have him as part of the collection. And I think if you're a Transformers fan, that you're probably going to feel the same way. So with that, it's going to wrap it up. I hope you guys got some good information out of this. Hope you found some entertainment. And if you haven't already done so, you know the rest. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment if you feel like it. And if you could, spread the word. If you know somebody who may like this channel, may like these videos, like what we do here, feel free to share this video, share the channel with them. It's always fun to see the community grow and be able to interact with everybody else. So until we see you guys in the next review, take care.